All right, this video is going to cover us looking at the master model approach and start to do some draftings. So what we're going to do is we are going to create a box that is going to hold 3 cylinders. And we are going to create expressions for the cylinder diameter, the cylinder height, and also the clearance. These are values that could possibly change. The wall thickness of the box should be 1/4 of an inch, and there should be a 20 thou clearance between the inside of the box and the cylinders. Bottom of the box is also going to be 1/4 of an inch, and again, there needs to be a 20 thou clearance from the top of the cylinder to the top of the box. Just a couple things to note: box will not be square. And then here in part B, we are given to use a cylinder diameter of 1.5 and a cylinder height of 2 inches. And this part B is where we're going to create our drawing. So when we create our expressions up here, we'll go ahead and put in 1.5 and 2 inches for our cylinder diameter and our cylinder height. Let's go ahead and open NX and get started. All right, remember to change your role to advanced, and we're going to go ahead and open up a new file. There's going to be 3 submissions for this assignment, so make sure that you are naming things correctly. We want a model, we want to be in inches, and the actual model needs to be named 07A UID. Save it to somewhere you can access, probably your desktop. And the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to create our expressions. We'll have cylinder diameter, put in 1.5. We have cylinder height, that's 2. And then we also have our clearance. This is 20 thou, 0.02. And we'll hit OK. Now we can go back to home and we can create a sketch. We can do this on the top plane. And so we need to have the 3 circles that are going to be contained inside this box. So we're going to actually create circles. We'll start one at the origin. And then there's another one that's up here, and another one that is up here. Now I just put them out there, kind of in the location where they're going to be, but we're going to constrain these in a way that defines them. Now all 3 are the same size, so I don't want to have to come in here and give dimensions to every single one. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to come here to our constraints, make sure that we have create persistent restraints turned on, and I'm going to go to make equal. Do equal radius. We've used equal length before. Let's use equal radius. And I'm just going to make this circle equal to this one. Hit apply. And then I'm just going to make this circle equal to that one. And hit OK. Now they're all going to be the same size. So if I come in here and I dimension one of them, and I'm going to dimension it, but I'm going to use the parameter that we just created. So I'm going to say equals, and this is going to be cylinder underscore diameter. And so I put one dimension in, and I've defined all 3 of our cylinders. Now we need these to be touching. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to use another constraint. We're going to do the make tangent constraint. So this is just defining, saying that these 2 objects that we select have to be touching, have to be tangent to each other. So I'll choose the left circle and then the center, and I'll say apply. Then I want the right circle and the center circle. I'll hit apply. And then we will select the left and the right circles. And we'll hit OK. And I see these little lines right here. That's a tangent constraint. And then we have the equals on all 3, saying that those are all equal. And we have sketches fully defined. What we want to do, though, is we want to turn this into reference geometry. We're not going to actually create these cylinders. We're only putting these in so that we can create our box around the cylinders. So to turn this into reference geometry, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on all 3 of the cylinders, the circles. And when this dialog box pops up, we have some options here. But the first one that we have is convert to reference. That's what we want. You can click on that, and it's going to turn them all into these dotted dashed lines. That is reference geometry. So this geometry is not going to be used to drive the actual the 3D geometry that's created. This is just used as a reference. So before we're done with this sketch, what we want to do is we want to create a rectangle here. I'm going to do the 2 by 2 or by 2 points. And I just want to put it around this box. And I want these lines to be tangent with these circles. So I'm going to do another make tangent, and I'm just going to touch this top line, and I want it to be touching one of these circles. I'll hit apply, and I'm just going to go around and do that for all of the sides. This is going to give us a definite boundary for the rectangle that is created from the cylinders. Sketch is fully defined. We still need this to be reference geometry. So I'm going to select all of these, reference geometry. So now while we're in this same sketch, we can actually create the inside boundary for our box. So this is not the inside boundary. This is the boundary that is tangent to the cylinders. And what we want is we want to create 20 thou clearance here for the inside of our box. Now we could come in and put another rectangle and then add the dimensions to that. But instead what we're going to do is we're going to use another command that we have not looked at before. We want to use the offset command. So if you come to curves, we've used mirror before, but if you go up a couple, you should see offset. And that's one that we want. It's asking us to select a curve. Before we do that, come down to settings, and we want to check the box that says create persistent relation. And we want to check that box before we do anything. So again, go down to settings and make sure that create persistent relation has been check marked. Now we can select our curves. Make sure that you have connected curves selected. And just select one of the lines that we created for that box. Should highlight all of them. And it's going to create an offset of that box. Now the distance is 2 inches. What that means is from this line to this line is 2 inches. And then also from each of these lines to the corresponding line is 2 inches. So the distance between this point to this point versus this point to this point is not 2 inches, it's actually 4 inches. And that's important because what we want is we want the inside border of our box to only have a 20 thou clearance, not a 40 thou clearance. So rather than putting clearance here, if we just typed in clearance for our distance, we'd end up having a 40 thou clearance inside the box, which is not what we want. We want a 20 thou clearance. So we need to change the distance from 2. We want to say half of the clearance, so clearance divided by 2. And we can put in parameters here, just like how we've done with the dimensions, or with whenever we are dimensioning a length. The only difference here is that we don't put the equal sign. We don't do that. We just start typing our parameters. So we've got clearance. You can even see that it pops up for us, divided by 2. So now from this reference line, which is the inside border of our cylinder, to the inside of the box wall, this distance here is 10 thou. Over here, it's also 10 thou. So the length of the line here is 20 thou longer than the inside boundary of our cylinders, which is what we wanted. So we can hit OK, and we can see the sketch is fully defined. If we did not turn on the create persistent relation, we would still have undefined sketches. We would have to come in and add that clearance to every side. It would be no different than us just creating a rectangle. And we can even see that we have clearance divided by 2 from this line to this line. And that's all that we're going to do for this sketch. We've done a lot in this one sketch, which is typically what we want to do, remember? So we can finish, and look what happens to that reference geometry. So we can no longer see it from the sketch, or from outside of the sketch. If we go back in to the sketch, it's there, and we can make changes and do whatever we need to with it. But once we exit out of the sketch, we can no longer see that reference geometry. So this boundary that we created is the inside wall of our box. So it's this wall right here. What we need to do is add this this 1/4 inch thickness for the walls, and then also for the bottom of the box. So let's do the walls first. Now with our sketch selected, we want to come up to extrude. Now there's many ways to make this box. This is just one method that I'm showing, and I'm showing it specifically because it's just a different way of doing it that we haven't looked at before. And the thing that we haven't looked at with the extrude command is these offsets. So with the offsets, similar to when we created the offset to create the boundary, what the offset in the extrude command does is it takes our 3D geometry that we've made and offsets it from the sketch boundary. And so if we click down the drop-down menu, if we go to single-sided, we can add essentially thickness from the defined boundary only in one side. So it can only move out. Everything inside the box is still extruded regularly. Then we have two-sided. Two-sided is where we get to define where we start. Right now it's starting at 0 and moving out to 1/4 inch. And then we have symmetric, where it's going to move 1/4 inch in both directions. What we want is a two-sided, and we don't want to start the two-sided at the -0.25, which is what's being shown here. What we want is the 1/4 of an inch to start at 0. So remember, this line that we've created, this box that we created, is the inside wall of our box. And the shell thickness is 0.25 inches. And so we can put 0.25. The distance is the same way that we've been doing the extrude distances before. But the only difference here is we're not going to go to an actual value, because what we're told is that the height of the cylinder, or the height of the box, is always going to be the height of the cylinder plus that clearance. So that's going to be the height of the inside of the box. So, and that's what we're doing right here. This is the wall of the box. So we can put, for the end distance, we want to put our cylinder height plus our clearance. And we can hit OK. So this is the inside, the walls of the box. What we need is also the bottom of the box. So we've done this dotted line right here. We've done this wall. Now we need to add the bottom of our box. All walls and floor is that 0.25. So what we can do is we can go back to the extrude command. This time we don't want to select the boundary of the inside of the box. What we want to do is select the boundary of the extrude offset that we just created. So we can extrude geometry faces that are created from our extrudes, our revolves, any other feature that we've used to make a face or some other boundary. So it's not just sketches. We can actually extrude a lot more. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start selecting these lines that were created from that offset. And now we have a defined boundary. It doesn't look like it's doing anything because look at the direction of our vector. You can see this blue line is the vector that we've created. So it's actually moving into the shell that we've made. That's just not what we want. We want it to actually be moving the opposite direction. So we go to the specify vector and just reverse the direction. Now so we actually have a solid body that is being created. We don't want it to go down the 2 inches and 20 thou. We only want this to be going down that 1/4 of an inch. So I'm just going to change this to 1/4 of an inch. You can see NX won't let me change this because it still sees it as that parameter that we put in. Because this is the cylinder height plus the clearance. So the way that we change this back so that we can actually type in a value is over here where we typically see the arrow for the drop-down menu. It's an equal sign, and that's NX's way of telling us that this is a formula. If we click on that equal sign, we have some options here. Down at the bottom, we have make constant. So that's what we want to click on. If we click on that, then it's kind of back to what we're used to seeing, where we can actually type in a value. And then we're just going to put in that 0.25, and we can hit OK. Now we have a box that has the correct clearances, and we can come in here and change the value, and the box will update, and it'll always have the correct clearance. It'll always be the right size. So we can change those values by going to our expressions. We can also come over here to the part navigator where it says user expressions. Click that plus sign. We actually see the values, and we can quickly change them. It's just another way to access the values. So instead of that 1.5, maybe the cylinder diameter is only 1 inch. So we'll put a 1 inch there, change it. Now the whole entire model has changed. All right, that's going to be it for this part of the video. There'll be another video that goes over how to do the master model approach with the drafting. So thanks for watching.